Hey, welcome back to 180 Wednesday, June 24th. We are glad that you are joining us wherever, however, whomever you're joining us with. Thanks for catching us today. We are in week 4 of our series on Mark, and we'll get to that here in just a little bit. But first, an announcement, and then a bit of a game for us today as we get started. The announcement is this. Unfortunately, we're going to be online for 180 for the rest of the summer. So maybe you know that already. Maybe your moms and dads have told you that already. But the next time that we're going to get together as a student ministry will be on Wednesday, August 26th. Lord willing, fingers crossed, for our back to school bash. So that is kind of that's the plan for now, to come back together on Wednesday the 26th for the back to school bash, and after that, roll it as normal with Wednesday nights with 180 on Wednesday nights and Sunday school starting after Labor Day. So hope to see you then. Hopefully nothing changes between now and then, and that's the plan moving forward. Well, to get started today, we've got some questions from 20 years ago, all the way back in 2002. Man, I had a lot less gray hair back in 2002. So let's see if you can come up with the right answers for which of these took place in 2002. Here's your first one. Was it Kelly Clarkson won American Idol? Was it that the first Harry Potter movie was released? Was it Apple releasing the iPod? Or was it President Clinton being impeached for perjury? Go ahead, let us know in the comments which one you think is the right answer. The correct answer is number 1. Kelly Clarkson won the first season of American Idol. So, there you go. And she's still making music, so that's good for her. Second one, you Disney buffs out there. Which of these Disney movies came out in 2002? Was it Toy Story 2? Was it Finding Nemo? Was it Monsters, Inc.? Or was it Lilo and Stitch? Go ahead, let us know the number that you think is correct in the comments there. Correct answer is the only movie on that list that I have not seen. Number 4, Lilo and Stitch came out in 2002. All right, one more. In 2002, what was the album of the year? Was it Bye 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 by NSYNC? Was it Come Away With Me by Norah Jones? Was it The Eminem Show by Eminem? Or was it Walk On by Us? Which album was it? Give yourself bonus points tonight if you chose 2. Come Away With Me by Norah Jones. Maybe some of you are like, who? Who's that? You've heard of Eminem. I know a lot of you have heard of NSYNC as well. But Norah Jones, Well, we are in week 4 of our series in the book of Mark. And tonight we're talking about the difference, or looking at faith and talking about the difference between faith and wishful thinking. The idea or the thought that you have faith or I have faith in Jesus and that we can bank or depend on certain things happening, versus this idea of, well, I kind of want things to happen, but I don't have the faith necessarily for that, or that something is going to happen. And so it's a bit of a long passage tonight. We're not going to read it all, but if you do have your Bibles, it's Mark chapter 5, verses 21 through 43. And it's a couple of different stories, and it's a couple of different sets of expectations as well. And so verse 23 and 24, the passage starts off like this. We'll jump up to 22 to start, sorry. Then came one of the rulers of the synagogue, Jairus by name, and seeing Jesus, Jairus fell at Jesus' feet. And he implored him earnestly, saying, "My little daughter is at the point of death. Come and lay your hands on her so that she may be made well and live. And he went with him. He went with him. And so this guy, this father, this Jewish synagogue leader, ruler, has a daughter who's ill. And he's heard enough about Jesus at this point in Jesus' ministry that has a lot of faith that Jesus can heal his daughter. And so he says, please come with me. I know if you see her, if you can touch her, that you can heal her. And all the while this is happening, they're making their way to Jairus' home. There's another person, a woman who is also very sick. She's had a blood flow or a blood hemorrhage for about 12 years. And in the midst of this massive crowd, she reaches out to Jesus and touches his cloak or his clothes. And as soon as she touches him, her condition is immediately healed. And so both of these people have faith that Jesus can heal their loved one or heal themselves. Both of them have not only faith, but their faith leads them to act. It leads them to ask, and it leads them to reach out and to touch and to get the healing. But while that woman is immediately healed, and Jesus has this almost psychic ability to go, who touched me? Because he feels something leave from him. While that woman is healed and during that interaction with her, verse 35, while he was still speaking, while Jesus is still speaking, there came from the ruler's house, Jairus' home, some who said, your daughter is dead. And why trouble the teacher any further? Your daughter is dead. And, Jairus had the faith to ask Jesus. He had the faith to go and get Jesus. And in the midst of their party making their way to their home, there's this interaction with that woman with her own condition, with her own faith, her own action. But in the midst of that happening, Jairus' daughter dies. And I know it's tough to maybe get a grasp or get a glimpse of what that looks like or how that would feel, but I want you tonight just to take a moment to imagine the grief and the sadness and the shock and the disappointment and the despair that Jairus and his family must have been feeling when they got that news. Because he had the faith and he asked Jesus, and Jesus was making his way to his home for the healing to happen. And in the midst of the travel and in the midst of the process, the daughter dies. Well, that's not how Jairus' story ends. Verse 36, overhearing what they said, Jesus said to the ruler, Jesus said to Jairus, do not fear, only believe. And then jumping back down to verse 39, and when he had entered, he said to them, why are you making a commotion and weeping? This child is not dead, but is sleeping. And they laughed at him. But he put them all outside and took the child's father and mother and those who were with him and went into where the child was. And taking her by the hand, he said to her, little girl, I say to you, arise. And immediately the girl got up and began to walk, for she was 12 years of age. And they were immediately overcome with amazement. When Jairus gets his healing, Jairus' daughter gets his healing, it's more remarkable than it would have been had Jesus got to the home on time to heal her from her sickness. It's more remarkable because in this instance, Jesus brings her back to life. And so Jesus, in the life of not only Jairus' daughter, but in the life of this woman, is able to work out two miracles for two people who had incredible faith that Jesus is who he said he was, and that Jesus could work a miracle in their life. And I don't know what miracle you need in your life. I don't know what the thing is that you've been praying for, whether that's been 12 years or 12 months or maybe just 12 days, something that you would like Jesus to do for you. But what is that thing? And maybe it's a relationship that needs to be healed or restored. you have tension or conflict with a sibling or with a friend, someone that used to be a friend, or with a parent. And you're praying for restoration. And that's the thing you keep bringing to Jesus. Maybe it's something that you need, something your family needs. Your family has lost income, they've lost work, they've lost money. You've lost work, you've lost money. Maybe there's something there that you need. Maybe it's a health thing. Maybe you need to be healed from something, or a friend or a family member needs to be healed from something, and you keep praying and you keep bringing that to Jesus. And you keep having faith that Jesus will work it out for your behalf. Another thing to think about tonight is, how have you experienced healing in your life? What prayers has Jesus answered? I think sometimes it's tempting to say, Jesus doesn't hear me, or Jesus doesn't answer my prayers, or I keep asking him for these things, and Jesus seems silent and quiet and almost distant. And I maybe want to challenge you this summer to begin to journal or begin to write down ways that Jesus hears and answers your prayer. If you need a job and you get a job, that can be one way that Jesus answers your prayer. If you need that relationship to be restored and you're able to go out with that friend, or you're able to have a conversation with that friend, maybe you could write that down and say, this is one way that Jesus has heard me and answered my prayer. So what do you need faith for? What are you praying for? Secondly, how has Jesus answered your prayer? And maybe a final challenge tonight. A couple of weeks ago, I watched the movie I Still Believe. It's the story of Jeremy Camp, who's a Christian recording artist and worship leader. And you can get the movie if you have Hulu. It's free right now on Hulu. I know it's in Redbox as well for $1.50 or whatever. And it would be well worth 2 hours of your summer at some point this time to watch that movie, to watch it with a friend, watch it with your family. It tells the story of Jeremy Camp and his wife, how they meet and kind of their love story. It's a little bit of a romance, but it's also a story of how God works in each of their lives, and how God continues to work in Jeremy's life when that first wife passes away. And it talks about these themes like belief and faith and hope, and how we keep on keeping on when it seems like Jesus isn't there. Whether that's Jairus here in the book of Mark when he finds out that his daughter has died, or whether it's you and I when we find out that something isn't going the way that we want it to do. How does our faith sustain us in those moments when we're disappointed or tempted to be disappointed in God? That's week 4 in the book of Mark. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week for the 5th week in the book of Mark. Have a great night.